Your opponents will say that Hilda is an on-rails, spoon-fed commander with no creative deck-building avenues. I will show you why they are wrong, so you can look them in the eye and say, let it go, winter is coming. So, Hilda says we are tapping down an opponent's creatures, and if we pay 1, when this happens we can choose from one of 3 modes. Create a 4/4 elemental, boost all our creatures with a +1/+1 counter, which works with the creature token mode, or scry 2, draw a card. Let's look at the ways we can tap opponent's creatures. We have what I have affectionately called the Twiddles, a one-off payment of mana to tap 1, 2 or 3 things, which we can find on cards like, you see a Guard Approach to tap 1, which is also modal and can protect Hilda, an important part of our strategy. Dizzying Swoop, the spell part of the adventure card Ardenvale Tactician that taps 2, and Downpour that taps 3. Then we have Tap All, Tap X, and these spells and effects can be put into our mass removal slots. Removal doesn't always mean we clear the board, it means we stop something from happening, we remove the advantage or make null the investment in a part of a turn or mana made by our opponents, like the super flavorful Sleep and Plant Tadpoles, both which additionally stun the tapped creature so they don't untap in their controller's next untap step. Plant Tadpoles also has Lithid Harvester as the permanent part of the adventure, turning tapped creatures into face-down 2/2s, robbing them of their identities and associated abilities. Finally, Cryptic Command, a modal spell with a mass tap effect, counter magic, card draw, and bounce as other options. We also have Enter the Battlefield tap effects on creatures that can be boosted by the +1/+1 ability on Hilda. We would prefer the magic words, it doesn't untap in the next untap step, or the placement of a stun counter here to make the body effective so it can attack uncontested by blockers. Of course, we are still paying 1 at the point of ETB with Hilda, so these creatures have a pseudo tax if we want to do this. Creatures like this include Poster Boy for tap and stun effects, Frost Titan, who also triggers on attack, and Tempest Caller alongside Gifzere Monk, who taps all creatures upon entry. Our penultimate group includes permanents where taps trigger when certain game actions take place. This makes it far easier for Hilda to be front and centre because after the initial cost we have a repeatable effect and can concentrate on just paying 1. When Elvish Mariner attacks, we scry and tap. When the land enters the battlefield, we may tap or untap a creature with Retreat to Coral Helm, or when we cast a non-creature spell, Ojutai's Exemplars can tap a target among other modes. Simple, every turn actions we take give us value and then Hilda gives us more. Finally, activated abilities of permanents like Verity Circle, Icy Manipulator or Silkbind Fairy. Again, the issue of adding 1 to any cost we pay to activate Hilda is a consideration, a pseudo tax. I like Verity Circle as it has an activated ability but also a triggered ability that draws us cards, whereas Icy Manipulator would read 2 and tap if we are wanting to make Hilda the star of the show. These spells are just the tip of the iceberg, and if you're interested in other Twiddle spells or any cards that I considered for this deck list, I've linked my theory crafting page on Archidect in the description below. That's where I gather all of my research and cards together in one place before I construct my final deck list. So we have a decision to make. Hilda is a commander I feel like should be on the battlefield as much as possible, but I also always say your deck should function without your commander. And we could keep her in the command zone as some icy figurehead, frozen in the zone whilst we tap dance all over our opponent's backs and take advantage of all their tap creatures by attacking with ours. And in a sense, we're not really even looking to cast a 4-drop commander. We almost want to cast her when we've got an extra mana available, so when she comes down we get value from her straight away. I think what we need to do is have a look at her 3 modes and work out which one's the most impactful before we can make that decision. First, a 4/4 body for every time something taps is insane in multiples, especially with boards full of stunned and tapped creatures. White contributes Populate with cards like Song of the Word Soul, Nesting Dovehawk or Rootborn defences, allowing us to make even more tokens. Second, putting a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, a great follow-up to an army of 4/4 elementals. If we are tapping down creatures, why not tap down the ones that block creatures with an evasion Azorius is known for, flying. Cast flyers like Pride of the Clouds, Selfless Spirit, or Steel Plume Marshal, tap flying blockers, and then things get pretty scary in the air very quickly. In fact, if you choose to go down the flying route, there is a type in Azorius that features a high proportion of creatures that tap down things, spirits, like Fogwalker, which ETBs with a stun effect, Nebelgast Herald, who taps whenever you cast spirits, and Nibelus of Frost, who stuns when you cast instants and sorceries. They are just a few examples. I found 8. Now put a +1/+1 counter on them constantly with Hilda, you'll be in high spirits. Thirdly, you could build scry or card draw synergies around Hilda, but I feel like there are commanders who do card draw themes in EDH way better, like Min or Elandra. However, multiple taps and the mana to pay 1 for each is still powerful, and Hilda could support a whenever you draw your second card theme beautifully, supported by cards like Ethereal Investigator, oh look, another spirit, and Prince Imrahil the Fair, who creates 1/1 creature tokens you can boost with Hilda's +1 counters, or Jace, Arcane Strategist, who can chip in some gas while you drive home that combat-based win. Quick shout out to Cypher, the mechanic that lets you cast them to imprint a spell on a creature. Get in those attacks past sleeping defences, recast Stolen Identity to create token copies of artifacts and creatures, Hands of Binding, which, oh look, taps and stuns creatures, may be worth a one-off in our deck, or a last thoughts to draw you cards. So lots of ideas to get you started, but for me, Hilda needs to be on that board and I need to keep her there for as long as possible. I just cannot pass up paying 1 for 4/4 bodies, and that means that I am going to have to invest in permanents and spells that do not cost me the earth. We want lots of triggered abilities. We want lots of when you attack, pay 1. When this happens, pay 1. Because otherwise it's too much of a tax and Hilda just is not going to work. And alongside that, I've put in a whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player and monarchy sub-theme, because all of their creatures are going to be tapped. And they're not going to be taking the monarchy back from us with tapped creatures, and they're definitely not going to want to trudge through a snowy wall of 4/4 elementals. Let's start with the chosen permanents in my deck list that tap stuff. I'll breeze past the stuff I've already name-checked. Ojutai Exemplars. And then, opposition is nuts in this deck. Tap a creature we control, pay 1, create a 4/4, and tap something with that new 4/4. Keep doing this as long as you have mana open and creatures to tap. Insta army, just add ice. Junkwinder. Cost less if we already have 4/4 elementals on the field because of its affinity for tokens. Create a 4/4 while it's out to tap down another creature. Then we pay 1, create a token, tap something, pay 1, create a token, and repeat as many times as mana and targets will allow. And this all applies the stun effect. Mind over matter. Choose and discard a card to tap a creature, pay 1, and switch to the draw a card mode on Hilda's card to scry 2 and replace that card. Repeat as mana and targets will allow. Also a great way to filter through the top of your deck. Court Street Denizen. The elementals entering the battlefield are white and blue creatures, so we tap when they enter and start the whole pay, tap, token rigmarole again. These 4 cards are must-haves. Then we have Elvish Mariner along with Gadwick the Wizard, who enters drawing us X cards and taps things down each time we cast a blue spell. Timin Youthful Geist, who taps things at the beginning of each combat, so not just our own, making him a unique political piece as we can conspire with opponents who need blockers out of the way during combat, or just turn a cold shoulder to someone who interfered with our plans earlier, and remove their chance to defend themselves. And where would Hilda be without some tasty headwear and her Icy Crown? A free tap during our turn, a mass card draw after a mass tap effect or spell. We have 6 options to tap and not have things untapped with these stun effects and spells. Sleep, and 2 new cards from the set. Shirai of the Numbing Depths, who stuns on entry and draws cards once per turn whilst we execute our chilly plans. Solitary Sanctuary has the same ETB effect but drops the restriction for putting +1 counters on creatures when we tap every time we do it. Think about that effect in conjunction with Opposition, Mind Over Matter, Court Street Denizen, and Junkwinder. Nibelus of Frost joins us in the Frozen North alongside Trap the Trespassers, a fun voting card that lets everyone freeze out creatures you do not control. Finally, 3 one-off spells, a Bluster Squall that has Overload, so functions in the early game and late game, and Bond of Discipline, cast before combat, crash in with life-linking 4/4s, laugh a raspy laugh at how far ahead you've pulled. Having a category called removal feels a bit redundant when most of the deck is removing something, but here we have a chop down that can kill a power 4 or greater creature as the adventure part of Giant Killer. Lithid Harvester made it through Snowy Bootcamp to be part of the deck and is joined by Piercing Rays, which can exile a tapped creature and has Forecast, where we can reveal it from our hand, pay 3 and tap a creature. Sunblast Angel melts away all those ice sculptures we created with a Destroy ETB, and then we supplement the tap shenanigans with the new Stroke of Midnight that destroys a non-land permanent, Generous Gift that destroys any permanent, and Ravenform to exile troublesome creatures and artifacts. Theft of Dream draws us cards for each tapped creature, as does Borrowing 100,000 Arrows, and Betrayal can be placed on an opponent's creature, rewarding us with a card every time we tap it. As our opponent's creatures are always going to be taking frozen naps, we can use the whenever a creature deals combat damage to an opponent trigger on Bidens with Thassa, Coastal Piracy and Reconnaissance Mission to refill our hands continually, and as we are focusing on creating 4/4 elementals, Curiosity Crafter will do the same when all hail breaks loose. Hilda will be met with a frosty reception by our opponents, and cracks will begin to show at the heart of our icy build if we cannot keep her on the battlefield. So I have dedicated 10 slots in my deck list to protecting her, and I have gone with warm bodies that can do just that, so they can be part of our combat-centric win con. Bastion Protector makes Hilda indestructible. Runetail Kitsune Ascendant from the best block in Magic history, original Kamigawa, fight me in the comments, will immediately flip early on in Commander and prevent all damage to all creatures you control. Linvala and Boromir can both throw themselves under the Polar Express to bestow protection on the team, with Boromir additionally countering spells that were cast for free. Pippin and 8.5 Tails have ways to give protection from spell types or colours respectively, and Gold Forged Phopterex and Isior Wardwing Familiar give ward and would fit in with the flying theme game plan. We finish with our Monarch sub-theme. Tap creatures can take the monarchy from us, and it's fairly easy to get them back by removing their blockers. In fact, the Monarch mechanic has this tap effect, Fall from Favour, which keeps something tapped if any other player than its controller is the Monarch. We are playing both courts as a token generating and mill-based win con. Court of Grace is especially scary in this deck. We can pump either token with that +1 mode for big beats in the air. It'll be a harsh winter for an opponent who can't block our 4/4s if we control the Keeper of Keys, making every creature we control unblockable if we hold the crown. And Champions of Minas Tirith do the reverse, locking opponents attacking us if they can't pay X for each card in our hand. That also synergizes with the third mode on Hilda, where we can scry 2 and draw a card. Finally, 2 standouts that are really cool in this deck. Noble Purpose, which gains us life for all that comp damage we will be doing, and Willbreaker, because gaining control of every creature we target with a spell or ability in the deck that is all about targeting sounds amazing. And this concludes Hilda and my deck list for the Witches 3. The deck list is in the description below, and it also includes the mana base so that we can power out our winteriness really quickly. But now the question is, who do I build next? And why is it called Vault? Thank you so much for joining me today, and as always, if you enjoyed this humble free content, a like and subscribe would mean the world to me. Coming up on the channel, even more Wilds of Eldraine stuff. I'm obsessed, great set. And also, our first ever live one-on-one Let's Play Leviathan match. Leviathan is 30 life, different ban list, and it's one-on-one commander, so it's lots of fun. Feel free to join us. It's Grolnok versus Alibu. It's Simic versus Boris, so good luck, Boris. And go out now, enjoy the sunshine, thaw out from this chilly deck tech. This has been MTG Specs, and I've been Lee.